the Metro Council Business Meeting of, March 21st, 2024. Thank you all for being here. We will get going, and Connor, will you please call the roll for attendance?
Yes, thank you. Councillor Wong.
Present.
Councillor Nolan.
Present.
Councillor Rosenthal.
Present.
Councillor Simpson.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Gonzalez.
On his way.
On his way. Okay, sorry. I thought I saw the box on Zoom and I was like, here we go. And I believe Councillor Lewis will also be joining us shortly. And finally, President Peterson.
Here, thank you very much. All right, we will now move on to the public communication portion of our meeting on non-agenda items. Connor, will you please describe to the audience our procedures for the public communication portion of the meeting?
Yes.
I forgot the safety video, didn't I?
Oh, right.
Apologies. If we could play the safety video for in-person attendees, thank you.
I'm Micah Reese, and I'm the Dive Safety Officer here at the Oregon Zoo, and safety is a big part of my job. Some of the things we consider here is diver safety. I'm out here at the Oregon Zoo, and you're at the Metro Regional Center. The council chamber is located on the 3rd floor of this building. In the event of fire or fire alarm, please exit through the door in the northeast corner of the room, go down the steps to the 2nd floor, and exit through the main entrance by the reception desk and gather in the courtyard outside the entrance. In the event of a medical or fire emergency, please call 911 and notify the security agent at the front desk. The nearest defibrillator is mounted on the steps leading from the reception desk down to Grand Avenue. Thank you.
Great. And now back to the public communication portion of our meeting on non-agenda items. Thanks.
Thank you. So if anyone wishes to testify on non-agenda items, now's the time to do so. Public testimony will be limited to 3 minutes, and I'll manage the timer to go off at the 3-minute mark. If you've not already signed up to speak, you can do so now. If you're joining us in person, you can fill out one of the blue cards in the back of the room and bring that up to me. If you're joining us on Zoom, you can sign up by hitting the raise hand button, which, depending on your version of Zoom, is either at the bottom of your screen or within the reactions tab. For those calling in, you can raise your hand by dialing *9. And as a reminder for everybody testifying today, you do not need to give your physical address. However, please do identify yourself for the record before testifying. So with that, President Peterson, councilors, we have had one person sign up to testify. So we have Dave Hubas. Apologies if I'm mispronouncing your name. But you can go ahead and take any of the 4 seats up here. Oh, it's for this ordinance. Okay, yeah. Apologies. Okay, thank you. In that case, I will just give folks in our Zoom audience another moment to raise their hand. All right, and seeing none, President Peterson.
Great. We will close this portion of the public communication on non-agenda items and move on to the consent agenda. Today we have resolution number 24-5396 for the purpose of suspending Metro Code subsection 5.01.260 sub C sub 2 regarding the quarterly sampling and reporting requirement for processing residual from material recovery. Do I have a motion for the consent agenda?
Move approval, Councilor Gonzalez.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Councilor Gonzalez, and I saw Councilor Rosenthal's hand go up faster. Thank you, Councilor Simpson. All those in favor say aye. 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 All those opposed say nay. And the motion passes. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to resolutions. We have one resolution on today's agenda, resolution number 24-5387 for the purpose of amending the fiscal year 2023-24 budget and appropriation schedule and fiscal year 2023 through 24 through fiscal year 2027 through 28 capital improvement plan to provide for changes in operations. We have Cinnamon Williams here today to help us walk through this. Thanks.
Sure. Well, thank you, Council President Peterson and Metro Council. I'm happy to be here to present the second of scheduled budget amendments for the fiscal year. In all actuality, this is the smallest budget amendment I think I've ever presented to you, to this council. So it should be a pretty quick presentation. So I will have you move to the next slide, please. All right, so I said it's pretty small. We've got two FTE changes and 2 fund level appropriation changes and a couple of departments with some capital improvement plan changes. Next slide, please. Is it moving? Next slide.
One more.
All right, this is great. So our FTE changes are for planning, development, and research. They're asking for one associate transportation planner to be dedicated to the Regional Travel Options Program, the RTO program. This will support the RTO equity implementation strategy. There's no additional appropriation need. They've got budget savings to pay for this. The ongoing cost for this is included in their upcoming FY25 budget and is covered by their grant resources. Parks and Nature has a 0.5 for an administrative specialist 3. This is to make it a full-time position. This also will support some of the work that's coming to Parks and Nature Department around Willamette Cove and other emerging needs. Again, they also don't need an additional appropriation needs in any of this. They have plenty of budget savings in the bond fund to cover that. Ongoing coverage of this will be covered by that bond program. Next slide, please. So we have appropriation changes. It looks like it's exactly the same. The only reason that is because we moved from one appropriation line to the other. We're moving from contingency into personnel services for the general fund and from contingency in the Smith and Bybee Fund to materials and services. So it nets out to 0. So next slide, please. I'll tell you a little bit more about those. So we have $598,000 moving from contingency. We're asking to do that to cover the pay equity project. Just as a reminder, we had a pay equity project this started this fall that has to go with the Oregon Pay Act, let's say that right, Equal Pay Act. And we will be in compliance with that. HR started that project for non-repped employees this fall, and we finished that project up, but it did have some cost impacts to our general fund departments. All other departments in the agency had enough savings and flexibility in their budget to cover those cost increases. But for the council office and the Office of Metro Attorney and Human Resources, their budgets are really tight. So this is just adding to those costs. It's about $235K for the council office, $250 for HR, and about $13,000. I shouldn't do the K, that's such an accounting thing. $113,000 for the Office of Metro Attorney. So I apologize for that. My little accounting geek comes out a little too much sometimes. For Smith and Bybee, it is a small fund. I just want to let you guys know it's about $1.2 million in this fund. They have about $175,000 worth of appropriation line. Any kind of increase to project costs usually triggers an amendment. And then we have $17,500 moving from contingency into materials and service for cost overruns on a little project. So that is that. All right, so the next slide, please. We'll talk about the CIP changes. None of the CIP changes that I'm going to discuss today ask for additional resource appropriation. These are just changes to your capital improvement plan. So Expo Center decided to decrease 2 projects to fund 1 project. So that's the reason why it says changes in 3 projects. They have an HVAC system. They want to take advantage of a price advantage. So they're going to take advantage of that and put all the money into their HVAC project, excuse me. The Oregon Convention Center is going to reduce 1 project and starting 4 projects early, which is they're being very purposeful with the money that they're spending on capital right now with TLT being really flat. So they've basically taken some resources off of 1 project and putting that on other projects, which is allowing them to start these projects early. So you can see that detail on attachment 2. The Oregon Zoo is increasing their capital improvement plan by $2.5 million, but they have pooled capital in their capital projects under capital outlay, so they have enough resources to pay for this, and they always have that. That's a consistent thing that the zoo does, to identify projects they didn't know about last year when they're doing the plan that come up this year. The largest one of that is the admin building refresh. You'll see that as a new project, as a project on there. If you've been to the zoo, it's quite a beautiful project they've done there. It's pretty nice. Next slide, please. And then last one is Waste Prevention Environmental Services Department. They have 7 projects that changed. They did not, it nets out to 0, change into their capital improvement plan, but they did defund some positions to pay for a couple of projects, the largest one being the concrete repairs out at Central. I do have all my finance managers, with the exception of Ashley Sloan, who is on a plane to Hawaii, which I envy greatly. But the rest of my finance managers are here to answer any questions, and I will give it back to you, Council President Peterson.
Thank you, much appreciated. Counselors, any questions for staff at this point? Counselor Simpson? Okay, just checking in. Oh, Counselor Wong.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you for that. It seems like pretty smooth sailing for the most part. I'm wondering if you can speak, and I saw for a bunch of the FTE changes that they're being paid for from savings. And I wonder if you can maybe provide some context
Sure.
on
Sure.
what the savings are, and is that like a general thing that we see? Does that mean we're like over budgeting and then not spending out to what we're budgeting to?
Often what that means, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
course, yeah.
But often what that means is they've had some kind of vacancy savings, and so they have enough resources there. Or sometimes a project gets delayed and they have enough in their materials and services to cover the costs. We consider at Metro, the council generously gives us flexibility to include personnel services, materials and services, and capital outlay as one appropriation line. So it gives us flexibility to say, so for example, if you have a vacancy and you need to do contracted services, you can kind of cover that activity. In this particular situation, they just have some savings in their personnel services due to vacancies. It's my understanding, right, Rachel?
It seems like we have consistent amount of savings year
Yeah.
to year. And is
Yeah.
that like a general,
It's-
is that a good thing or?
It's a good thing. We don't ever want to budget to the dollar. That doesn't give you any flexibility. We do like to have that, but we do want to be, I would say, very conservative in the aspect. We don't ever want to over budget, obviously, and we want to make sure that we have the appropriate resources at hand to make good decisions in the moment at the same time as adequately planning for the next year. I hope that answered your question.
It does, yeah. I just wanted to get a sense of, how accurate our budgeting is.
Yeah.
And it seems
Personnel
like-
services
yeah.
is by FTE and then usually by, sometimes we have some variable hour labor costs that are in there. What we do make bigger assumptions on is how much our health and welfare costs come in as, and then we have some personnel, PERS and like some of those rates, and sometimes that can vary based on people's elections, and sometimes we end up with savings in that way as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, Counselor Lewis.
Sure, just wanted to pick up on the conversation. You mentioned the variation between paying for work through FTE, that is full-time regular employment, and variable hour. You didn't bring in seasonality, which both parks and zoo
Yes, they do.
have a lot. And I do believe in my review of the materials that the parks is regular full-time status and not seasonal. Can you speak to if any of the savings we are finding is because we are overusing seasonal employees in the parks?
No, the admin, so what we're asking for with the admin is specifically to the bond program, not operations, which would be the seasonality work.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
All right, Counselor Rosenthal.
Just a quick question, and maybe you can't answer this. During the pandemic, we had problems. We had the positions that we couldn't fill quite quickly because just there weren't available. Do we have many of those outstanding right now? And that'd be one reason why you'd end up with a budget surplus in some cases, because you can't fill positions. Is that a big problem right now, or sort of just normal?
Well, I would say that it's different for every department. So first, I'd preclude that. I do think that the venues are still in situations where they have unfunded positions and they're still working with definitely impacts from COVID. So that's different. Parks and Nature has had some vacancies due to just trying to hire people at the parks and just tight labor market due to price impacts. And I think that the LIUNA contract has helped solve some of those problems that's been recently signed. But most departments are fully employed. We just always have some kind of vacancies. It's just the regular rotation of things. But I do think it's different for every department in a different way.
Thanks.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none, thank you so much, Enem. Do I have a motion on resolution number 24-5387 for the purpose of amending the fiscal year 2023 through 24 budget and appropriation schedule and fiscal year 2023 through 24 through fiscal year 2027 through 28 capital improvement plan to provide for changes in operations?
Move approval.
Thank you.
Second.
It's been moved by Counselor Gonzalez and seconded by Counselor Lewis. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Connor, will you please call the roll?
Yes, thank you. Counselor Lewis,
Aye.
Counselor Nolan,
Yes.
Counselor Wong,
Aye.
Counselor Gonzalez,
Yes.
Counselor Simpson,
Aye.
Counselor Rosenthal,
Yes.
and President Peterson.
Aye, the motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cinnamon.
All right, we'll move on to our ordinance. Our first ordinance today is ordinance number 24-1508 for the purpose of amending Metro Code Section 5.05.055 to allow the disposal of cleanup material at a limited capacity landfill under certain conditions. We have staff here today, Will Enos, thank you, to review a proposed amendment to Metro's landfill policy that would allow cleanup materials from the region to be disposed of as fill at certain landfills to facilitate closure in a timely manner. Will?
Thank you, President
Welcome.
Peterson. Good morning, councilors. For the record, my name is Will Ennis, and I use he, him pronouns. I'm a senior solid waste planner in Metro's Waste Prevention and Environmental Services Department. I'm here today to provide an overview of a proposed change to Metro's solid waste code to amend Metro's landfill capacity policy as described in ordinance number 24-1508. If adopted, the ordinance would amend Metro Code Chapter 5.05 to allow metro area cleanup material to be disposed of at a limited capacity landfill solely to facilitate closure and timely compliance with a solid waste disposal site closure permit issued by the Department of Environmental Quality. In 2017, Council adopted a landfill capacity policy that prohibits the disposal of the region's waste at any new or limited capacity landfill. Under Metro's Solid Waste Code, a limited capacity landfill means a landfill that seeks to expand its disposal capacity after May 2017. The policy was intended to ensure that the region's waste would not cause the expansion of an existing landfill or the construction of a new landfill. As originally adopted, the policy did not consider different types of landfills or different uses of material at disposal sites. In 2022, the Metro Council clarified that the policy does not apply to hazardous waste landfills or landfills that exclusively accept cleanup material. The proposed ordinance before you today would amend the policy to allow metro area cleanup material to be disposed of at a limited capacity landfill for the sole purpose of facilitating closure. Cleanup material, which generally consists of non-hazardous contaminated soil, is commonly used in landfills instead of virgin soil. A landfill that begins the closure process must meet specific requirements and timelines set by DEQ, and it generally needs to add fill material to reach approved engineered grade before applying final cover. Landfills commonly use cleanup material for this purpose, and a lack of suitable fill material may impact the ability of a landfill to meet its permit timelines. Due to its size and population, the Metro region has a significant amount of cleanup material that is suitable for use at a landfill undergoing closure. However, Metro's landfill capacity policy currently prohibits the region's waste from going to certain landfills. The policy was not intended to extend the timeline for a landfill to close. Staff recommends that Council consider amending the policy to help expedite the closure of a limited capacity landfill which has been issued a DEQ closure permit. A real-world example of how the limited capacity landfill policy is playing out as presently codified is occurring at Riverbend Landfill in Yamhill County. At the time the policy was initially being considered by Council, Riverbend Landfill sought to expand its disposal capacity and was no longer authorized to receive metro area waste after the policy was adopted. That landfill is now operating under a DEQ closure permit, and the landfill is having difficulty sourcing cleanup material, such as contaminated soil, to fill low spots and reach final grade. WM, formerly Waste Management, and the owner of Riverbend Landfill, informed Metro that its landfill capacity policy might inadvertently delay the timely closure of the landfill due to an inability to source enough cleanup material to meet the landfill's permitted closure date in 2030. As part of Metro's research into this matter, staff contacted Yamhill County and a representative of the Stop the Dump Coalition, a group that actively opposed Riverbend's proposed expansion in 2017. Both county staff and members of the coalition asked for additional information and clarification about the proposed amendment and operational considerations at the landfill. Metro provided the requested information, and neither party stated an opposition to the proposed amendment. In addition, I'd like to note that the proposed ordinance would not direct any metro area cleanup material to a specific landfill or obligate a landfill to accept it, but rather it would provide another disposal option for cleanup material generated in the metro area. Anyone seeking to dispose of metro cleanup material at a landfill like Riverbend would first need to obtain a Metro non-system facility license as specified in Metro Code. Metro would closely coordinate with DEQ to ensure that the landfill is authorized to accept the cleanup material and that it manages the material in accordance with its closure permit. Metro staff recommends that Metro Council adopt ordinance number 24-1508, which amends Metro Code Chapter 5.05 to allow the disposal of metro area cleanup material at a limited capacity landfill solely to facilitate closure and timely compliance with the DEQ closure permit. I'm happy to provide further detail and answer any questions you may have about this proposed amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Counselor Rosenthal.
Thank you. Yeah, good presentation, and I understand the situation at River Bend. My question is twofold. First of all, I think you can guarantee that we or the region do not accept, because some of these facilities could be quite a distance and haulage is always a cost. Do we accept any additional cost implications for this? And then the other question is, does this put us in a position, writing it in a generic sense, as being sort of the fill source of last resort for, I don't know, whether it could be Coffin Butte, it could be Short Mountain, it could be Deschutes County, it could be, anything around the state could say, well, we want to supply a permit, and by now we allow ourselves to be the source for that material. And I don't have a problem with that, other than if the people in our district are footing some of the bill for hauling materials to these other sources. We're sort of becoming, I'm just wondering about that whole constellation of why this is written as a general sense as opposed to a specific situation for Coffin Butte. For Riverbend, excuse me.
I think it's trying to, when the policy was initially adopted, it didn't foresee all potential implications. And I think keeping this open-ended would allow staff not to come again with another amendment, since we know that Coffin Butte has considered submitting an application for an expansion also.
Mm-hmm.
So it's also that the Riverbend landfill is also receiving these materials to fill in the low spots. There's approximately, I think, 80 acres that need to be filled. And they're just not receiving the amount that they need in
Right.
order to meet the permitted closure date.
And so who pays the extra transportation costs? Does that come out of our ratepayers, or does that come out of, that's an extra cost. Hauling greater distances, we already have budgeted for hauling materials to Arlington, but in some cases, this could be greater. Is that something that our ratepayers will end up paying?
I can't answer that. That arrangement would be between the generator and the landfill. And as currently Metro receives $3.50 per ton on the disposal of cleanup material.
Okay.
Great, thank you. Counselor Lewis.
Sure, thank you so much. I want to thank you and the other staff that are behind you. This has been an intentional and very well-run process to have this conversation. Don't go lightly into changing code that it feels like we just touched. So thank you for both the problem statement and the intentional outreach as part of this effort. My question is hopefully simple. Who is the responsibility on in order to determine that a material is contaminated yet not hazardous?
DEQ regulates the Riverbend landfill and all the landfills in the state, and so it's it's on the permitted entity, the landfill, to make sure that the material coming in is acceptable. And so there's usually a profile of the waste that's done to determine whether it's hazardous or non-hazardous. And in this particular case, Riverbend is not permitted to accept hazardous waste.
Okay. Does DEQ do anything about asking for that check to be done before it arrives at the landfill so that we're not inadvertently driving around a bunch of hazardous stuff? Or
Yes.
is it always at the destination?
No, I believe the profiles are filed long in advance of the delivery of the material.
Fantastic. DEQ has thought ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselors, any other questions for staff? Okay, seeing none, thank you, Mr. Ennis, much appreciated. We will move on to the public hearing. We will move on to the public hearing for ordinance number 24-1508 for the purpose of amending Metro Code Section 5.05.055 to allow the disposal of cleanup material at a limited capacity landfill under certain conditions. Connor, will you please describe to the audience our procedures for the public hearing?
Yes, thank you. So once again, if anyone wishes to testify on ordinance number 24-1508, now is the time to do so. Public testimony will be limited to 3 minutes, and I'll manage a timer to go off the 3-minute mark. If you've not already signed up to speak, you can do so now. If you're joining us in person, you can fill out a blue card in the back of the room and bring that up to me. If you're joining us on Zoom, you can sign up by hitting the raise hand button, which once again is either at the bottom of your screen or within the reactions tab. And as a reminder, once more, you do not need to give your physical address. However, please do identify yourself for the record before testifying. So with that, President Peterson, councilors, now we have our person who signed up in advance for testimony.
Thank you.
So Dave Hubis, go ahead and take any of these seats. You'll have 3 minutes, and your time will begin when you begin speaking.
Good morning.
Good morning, Metro Council President Peterson and Metro councilors. My name is Dave Huber, and I am WM's Public Sector Manager, overseeing all of our municipality contracts throughout the Metro region, as well as the surrounding counties outside of the Metro area. First, I want to thank Metro staff as they've worked with our request to amend Metro Code 5.05.055 and prepared the proposed ordinance 24-1508, which will allow the timely permitted closure of our Riverbend landfill located southwest of McMinnville, Oregon. I also want to thank you for your consideration in amending this current Metro Code. WM is supportive of this amendment, as this will allow materials from the Metro region to be used as final grade at our Riverbend landfill, helping expedite the timely closure. This change addresses the community's desire for a quick closure of the site, as the proposal will allow WM to avoid a modification request that would ultimately extend the closure deadline. In reaching out to the community, we have been able to respond to all questions that were asked of us regarding this amendment change, specifically those questions from Stop the Dump Coalition. And we are at this time unaware of any objections of our request to amend the current code. We have also been in communication with Yamhill County Solid Waste staff to ensure any questions that they have had were also answered in a timely manner. I would also like to add that I was participating in a Yamhill County Solid Waste Advisory Committee call yesterday afternoon. And the Yamhill County SWAC made a motion to prepare a letter for the Board of Commissioners to support this as well. So that is going to be in front of the Board of Commissioners today for their signatures, and anticipate that coming in front of you before the vote. WM appreciates Metro's attention to this requested amendment request. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, thank you for the communication about this and the work behind the scenes with staff. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Anybody else, Connor?
We have not had anybody else sign up in advance, and I don't see any hands that have gone up in either of our Zoom or physical audiences.
All right. I will close the public hearing on ordinance 24-1508 and look at our attorney because I believe this is a first reading.
Yes.
Yes. Council President Peterson, this is a first reading, and I don't know exactly when it's scheduled to come back for the second reading. I don't know, Connor, if you have that information in front of you.
Yes, it is scheduled to come back for its second reading on April 11th.
Great, thank you. So we will close the public hearing and we will move on, and we will bring this back on April 11th for its second reading and vote. All right, thank you so much. We will move on then to ordinance number 24-1509 for the purpose of amending Metro Code Chapter 7.04 to expand eligible recipients of 2040 planning and development grants and allow allocation of CET funds to Community Placemaking Grant Program. Councilors, as you recall, in February, Council reviewed proposed updates to the rules that govern 2040 planning and development grants. These proposed changes will create more opportunities for our partners in tribal government and unincorporated communities to access funding from Metro for planning. And these changes support Metro's Community Placemaking Grant Program, which provides a vital source of funding for projects that enrich our communities and make this region a great place to live and thrive. We have Erin and Sarah back today to give us an update. Thanks.
Hello, Metro Council President and councilors. We are here, as you just said, to follow up with the implementation of these changes to the 2040 plan as directed by council. Next slide, please. So Sarah and I are here to describe the ordinance to you and to answer any questions. This, as we said, we came to you a couple months ago to begin talking about changes to the 2040 program. We returned in February with some very specific things to do through implementation. One of those requires changes to the code that implements the 2040 plan, and so we've brought those changes back to you through this ordinance. And to describe those changes, I'm going to turn it over to Sarah Breakstone, who is the project manager of the 2040 Planning and Development Program.
Thanks, Erin. Next slide, please. We'll keep it short and sweet today. You have the underlined strikeout language in your packet, so we didn't put it on the slide for you. It's pretty brief. Basically, these code amendments will add language that allows grants, 2040 grants, to be allocated directly to federally recognized tribes of Oregon. It will also allow community groups in unincorporated areas who are interested in annexation or exploring annexation or incorporation. It will allow those groups to apply for and directly receive grants as well. And these changes will allow CET funds to be distributed to the Community Placemaking Grant Program. So those are the three changes that are being implemented through these code amendments, and that will be further refined and detailed in the administrative rules that govern the 2040 Grant Program. So these are changes, as Erin mentioned, that will implement guidance from council to us and also ensure that the Metro Code and the admin rules are in sync. Next slide. So next steps are second reading this is the first reading of this ordinance. Second reading will also be April 11th, and at that point, council can consider a vote to approve ordinance 24-1509. Upon that approval, staff will finalize all of these updates to the 2040 program that we've been talking about, and we'll kick off a new grant cycle for 2024. Next slide. Any questions for us?
Councilors, any questions? Seeing one hand raised. Councilor Lewis?
Sure, thank you. First, I want to add appreciation for you hearing me and making sure that we have a path forward for residents in urbanized, unincorporated areas to continue to plan for their communities with an urban future. So thank you for that. My only question today is why we've lost the specific language around implementing the region's long-range plan. It's in the strikeout on the document, and it's in reference to the 2040 vision, which I understand is no longer long-range, it's sort of tomorrow. But I do think someday in the future, we might have a far-off future vision plan that we're all running towards again.
That is language that I'm not 100% sure. I think that was language that Roger, our legal representative, wanted to remove. He's
Roger, would you
probably
like
not
to come
here.
up? No, he's here.
He is.
Come on
Throwing
up.
Roger under the bus.
Sorry, Roger.
He just came in because he knew this question was coming.
Perfect timing.
Exactly right. Thank you. Good afternoon, Roger Alfred, Metro Attorney's Office, and thank you for the question, Councilor Lewis. Part of the reason that I thought it made sense to take that out was because it wasn't consistent with the other language in the code about what the policy and purpose is. So that part about help implement the region's long-range plan, that's the only place that that exists, and it's not also in the policy and purpose part. It felt to me like it was a little extraneous. I mean, I don't think there's no goal to not do things that implement the region's long-range plan. I mean, I think anything we do will be consistent with that. It just felt a little bit unnecessary. It's also not critical to take it out. So we could talk more about that if you think.
No, I respect that line of reasoning. I just want to make sure that as I read it, it's not because of any deviation from the agency's desire to do things in alignment with a long-range vision.
No, absolutely not.
Great.
Yeah,
Okay,
great.
thank you.
Awesome. Any other questions? All right, we will move on then to the public hearing. Thank you for
Thank
bringing
you.
this forward. We'll move on to the public hearing for ordinance number 24-1509 for the purpose of amending Metro Code Chapter 7.04 to expand eligible recipients of 2040 planning and development grants and allow allocation of CET funds to Community Placemaking Grant Program. Connor, will you please describe to the audience our procedures for the public hearing?
Yes, thank you, President Peterson. So if anyone wishes to testify on ordinance number 24-1509, now is the time to do so. Testimony will be limited to 3 minutes, and I'll manage the timer to go off at the 3-minute mark. If you've not already signed up to speak, you can do so now. If you're joining us in person, you can fill out one of the blue cards in the back of the room and bring that up to me. If you're joining us on Zoom, you can sign up by hitting that raise hand button, which once again is either at the bottom of your screen or within the reactions tab. And as a reminder to everybody testifying today, you do not need to give your physical address. However, please do identify yourself for the record before testifying. So with that, President Peterson, councilors, I've not had anybody sign up in advance to testify on this item, and I'm not seeing any hands going up in our Zoom audience.
All right, with that, we will close the public hearing on resolution number 24-1509, and this was a first reading. Our second reading and vote will be April 11th, and we will see you all there. Much appreciated. All right, we'll move on to Chief Operating Officer Communication, and thank you again for the updates, folks.
Oh, I'm on already. There we go. Okay. Good morning, Council President Peterson and Metro councilors. First off, just wanted to report that we had a very, I think, productive meeting yesterday of the Stakeholder Advisory Table for Affordable Housing. We heard a lot, a diversity of opinions on kind of how we should approach this problem. And I think it was exactly what we were hoping for, to get kind of a comprehensive map of the perspectives, positions, concerns, hopes, dreams of our stakeholders. And so we are going to be sort of processing that feedback today and starting to plan for the next meeting, which is in a couple of weeks. So we're very much looking forward to that. Also, just a couple of quick updates on the Willamette Cove project. The team developing the master plan for Willamette Cove's Nature Park has been connecting with community organizations as it kicks off its community engagement process. These one-on-one interviews are introducing Willamette Cove to a wide variety of organizations whose missions overlap with the values that we're bringing to the planning process. So the team is working to ensure the Indigenous community, communities of color, and members of the disability community are able to meaningfully influence the master plan there. The first engagement workshop is being scheduled for early May, and at the same time, we'll have a survey open to anyone in the region to weigh in on the future of the nature park. The parks team will work with council staff to get the word out to communities across the region so that they can also influence the project. And then lastly, the planning for the cleanup is moving forward. The cleanup team continues to work with DEQ to apply the information we gathered from our soil study in 2022. So more to come there. And that's all I have for you. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to Councilor Communications. Thank you. Councilors, anything for the good of the order? Councilor Rosenthal.
Yeah, I think I probably should report a little bit on something that both Councilor Gonzalez and I talked about after the last meeting. Is last week we had 3 sessions with the stakeholders on the TV highway, and we're in the process of developing both a federally funded as well as a locally funded options for how to move forward on that project. We had 3 good meetings. We met with them all separately in sort of, you might call, small groups. And there's a lot of effort. Going forward, our staff is in the process of developing preliminary cost estimates for both options. And that's going to be coming forward in the next, I think, 30 days or so. And Councilor Gonzalez, if you want to add something more.
Don, thank you for providing the update, Co-Chair Rosenthal. I appreciate that.
Counselor Gonzalez, and then Lewis, and then Nolan.
All right, great. Just very quickly, this morning, a group of us regional transportation people woke up early to attend JPEC at 7:30, as it is our right and tradition. And it was actually a lighter meeting than we had originally anticipated. We had the West Side Multimodal Improvement Study originally scheduled, and it was coming to a work session here. But as we know, with Governor Kotek's pause on tolling, there was a time to kind of reset that and look at some of the recommendations there so that we can just be responsive to what's happening. So we were able to pivot the meeting and have a very fruitful conversation with Lindsay Baker from ODOT, and she has a long title that's escaping me right now, but I know it's Government Affairs and External Relations Assistant Director, I believe, just in case folks don't know, of her work. And we were able to discuss the ODOT fiscal cliff, great conversation around revenue mechanisms, and I think for me, and I know Councilor Lewis and Councilor Simpson, with any reflections that you have, I think just continuing to normalize the importance of just talking about the revenue and the tools that we have, and at the same time, as we get comfortable as decision makers, finding ways to empower community to be a part of the solution as well. So it's not a top-down solution handed and forced onto folks. So that's kind of the takeaway that I have, and that was it. We also covered briefly our JPAC trip is in a few weeks, so we'll be in DC, it feels like, and we overviewed that, but a light meeting aside from a very heavy topic.
Thank you. Counselor Lewis.
Sure, thank you. I just wanted to share back that the Expo Future Sports Committee met yesterday afternoon, and we have basically the phase 1 of our consultant Hunden analysis. They have done a lot of comparator study. There's been no narrowing yet, but essentially this is the gate, to use a very Paul Simon term, at which we say yes, right direction, and everybody agreed the comparators were right direction in the analysis of the strengths and weaknesses of the site. In particular, the assessment that halls A, B, and C are insufficient for hosting sports. D and E, as we know, already do. And so they will move forward with the phase 2, which is going to do more intense site analysis of what amenities we would want and what space might be available for them, and if they can all jigsaw puzzle together. And then additionally wanted to report back that the Clackamas County Business Alliance had a very successful Tuesday afternoon post-legislative session forum, talking about the work that the legislature did, obviously in the lens of how it relates to my part of the region, and the work there setting the stage for future conversations on transportation funding felt really good and right direction as well for a group that has been strained in talking about transportation for quite some time. So really glad that Metro has prioritized our participation at CCBA, and just want to bring that forum back.
Thank you. Counselor Nolan, and then Simpson.
Thanks, Madam President. I want to call our attention to the upcoming celebration on March 31st of Transgender Day of Visibility. It's a day to recognize and honor the presence, achievements, and ongoing challenges of transgender individuals within our diverse community, our fabulously diverse community. At Metro, visibility for transgender individuals is integral to our progress toward inclusivity, diversity, and understanding. By acknowledging and valuing contributions from our transgender employees, as well as stakeholders on advisory committees, we actively work toward breaking down stereotypes and fostering an environment of acceptance and respect, and I would say celebration. Despite progress in LGBTQ rights, transgender individuals in our region, and certainly across the country, continue to face systemic barriers, discrimination, and violence in their lives and in their workplaces. From accessing healthcare to navigating employment opportunities and safe, dignified housing, there are unique barriers in our community that must be removed to ensure equity for all residents. On Transgender Day of Visibility, Metro stands in solidarity with transgender individuals, reaffirming our commitment to advocacy and support. We take tangible steps by implementing inclusive policies and practices in our workplace, facilities, and services, but also working to challenge harmful stereotypes and promote education and awareness within our organization and the broader community. And now it's me speaking, not just well-considered messages. I think it's also important for us to recognize that our commitment to LGBTQ rights, and particularly our celebration of trans members in our community, is an ethical and moral imperative, but it's more than that. We can't really do our jobs effectively unless we are consulting with, enjoying the input of a completely diverse community, and that includes trans people. We can't do our jobs well. Metro can't succeed without their input. Thanks for joining me in this celebration and commemoration.
Thank you, Counselor. Much appreciated. And now I understand the shirt. We're all in blue and tan.
Two of us are Easter eggs today.
Thank you, much
You
appreciated.
bet.
All right, Counselor Simpson.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Councilor Nolan, for those words. I think that needs to continue to echo across our society. So thank you for that. I want to report back that I had an opportunity to go and tour Metro Central with Superintendent Debbie Humphrey and Director McGuire yesterday. And boy, what a treat, let me tell you, to see so much action happening in one space. And they were quick to remind me that Metro Central is a little bit more smoother than Metro South, so I'm going to tour that soon. So if anybody wants to join me, I'm looking at my colleagues. Come on, Councilor Lewis. I would be happy for you to join me, because I think that when you get eyes on this operation and you get a chance to see like just the amount of people power it takes to run this thing, and the amount of attention and operational risk management that it takes to run these sites, I mean, it's incredible. So my hat goes off to Debbie and her team, her staff, as well as to Director McGuire for keeping that thing running. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Awesome, thanks. I just wanted to bring up lastly, as you know, I was on the Semiconductor Competitive Task Force back when we were helping at the legislative level pass the CHIPS manufacturing subsidies and support at the state level. And that has come to fruition now with an announcement by Intel that they will be investing $100 billion across their system, but $36 billion in Oregon. in the future. And I just want to say it's really good news, and I'm trying to bring as much good news as we possibly can every single time we have counselor communication. This is an incredible amount of investment, but it's going to require a lot of thinking on our parts, colleagues, of what does that mean for the future of our region? What are the needs? When we had this conversation of the small investment, and I'm going to say small investment of 200 million plus at the state level, that does not include land readiness, that does not include workforce training, and it does not include affordable housing within the region. So I think we have a lot of discussion to think about how do we influence actually making this work in totality with our cities and counties across the region, because there's also a disparity in where this money will get spent, and what does that mean in terms of our ability to shine light on other portions of the region that still need investment. So with that, I just want to say it's really, really good news, but it does mean a lot of work, and I don't want to get behind this issue. I'd like to get ahead of it and start thinking about what does that mean in terms of our work, and what does it mean around a coordination with the rest of the region. So much appreciated for all of the support in getting us to that point, though. All right. With that, seeing no further discussion, the council meeting is adjourned for today, and we'll see you back here on April 2nd, 2024 at 10:30 a.m. Thanks so much.